All right, so welcome to Rain Data Collectors Training Module 4, and today we are going to be looking at field data operations, or field operations rather. That's what we're going to be doing today. So here's the outline we're going to work with. One of them is making a plan, tax break, field operations, data management plan, reconnaissance visits, mapping your work, working in teams, logistics, safety, and all. So I want to believe that it is easier for everyone to hear me. So we're going to begin with making plans for planning and preparedness, tax brief. So like I always mention that when we start when we begin this when we begin the work, it's usually going to start with a tax brief. And in that tax brief, what we are doing in that tax brief is to tell you about your task, your specific tasks that you would be doing, the specific tasks that you will be doing, and also if there be any challenge in that task, and if there be any challenge in that task, and if what the task is all about, we'll explain it to you. We'll tell you the nitty-gritty of that task, so you understand that, and it happens in a way that that you're able to relate with it. So that's why the task brief is going to happen. Then the thing is the field teams and the field operations. So like I said, you are going to be working in teams, and while you're working in teams, it means that you will put in a team to go and do the work. So there won't be any there will not be any maybe you're working without like some form of guidance. So you'll be working in a team, and your teams will have a team leader, and you are expected to also have like a data management plan, like the data you're going to collect, how you're going to collect it, what are the other things that are informed in it, like informed consent. You have all these plans all mapped out for you. So you're going to be doing all that. Okay, what are the informed things? And you're going to be doing this in teams so that you can collect yourself together and put yourself together to really know how best to go about it. So that's one. Then another thing is something that is important is, like, let's take for instance that when you're making your plans. In making your plans, you need to do like a risk assessment of of your plans. Any plan that you are doing, you need to conduct like a risk assessment. And in conducting the risk assessment is very simple. You ask yourself, oh, what are the hazards that we are likely to face? What are the exposure? How exposed? What is our level of exposure in terms of that hazard or that situation? And also, what is our vulnerability? Were we vulnerable to any maybe embarrassment, or are we vulnerable to any maybe security risk or something? So, and what is important is you ask yourself when you are making this your plan, what are the risks, and how can they be mitigated? If not, what next? And how do you also classify your risk that you're exposed to? Because when you're working in the field, you could be exposed to different kind of risk. Yeah, you understand? And we do not want to. The reason why we are going through this session is because we don't want to entertain, and we'll try as much as possible to limit and reduce our risk situations, or our risk, how exposed we are to any risk. We'll try and reduce it, and reduce any risk, any possibility of any harm to anyone, because this is how we want to do our work. We want to do our work in a way that it is easy and smooth, and everything runs quite clearly. Now, I've quite had a lot of experience in field operations. To be honest, I worked at some point. I worked in northeast Nigeria, in Maiduguri, during the heat of the Boko Haram crisis. I was working with some organization. So these are part of the things you do. You look at the risk. You analyze all these things, and you're able to go in and have a successful field operations. However, many of the job you're going to be doing, of course, is not in high risk areas. So we're not going to expose you to working in high risk areas. No, many of the work you're doing will be in, like, usually, like how we do it, how we're going to be matching you with responsibilities, that we're matching with responsibility with areas that you know about, that you're living in or that you're working in. Those are the kind of responsibilities. That's how we're going to match you. And so another thing is, when you are doing your risk analysis, let's take for instance, now if you're doing your data management plan, how are you going to collect data, or what is the type of information we're collecting? Is it a sensitive data, personal data? Is it an identifiable data? What is the risk? Will people embarrass us? Will people say, please, I don't have to go, or what is the risk that we're going to go and collect this information and we're not going to find people that respond to it? All these other things can just come up along the line. So it's important that you analyze like your risk possibilities and how you're going to manage it. And in analyzing your risk possibilities, it's important to classify it. Is it a low risk? Is it a moderate risk? Is it a high risk? Is it a severe risk? So when it is usually, for instance, let's look, like we have been so focused on this data sensitivity lately. That's from module 2. So I'm going to draw into that module 2 into this one. So it's about like the information that you're providing, like that you're collecting. Is it, for example, is it something that, if it's an anonymous evaluation or survey that you're doing, there's no problem. It's anonymous, so the risk is low. You don't have anybody say, you're asking me, So for us, we look at risk of everything. We try to analyze the risk. This is in your preparation phase while you are preparing for the meeting. So you have to, all those things are part of it. You have to ask, you have to get that in the whole process. So another thing again we have to look at is, so this risk classification is done after you had gotten your task brief. Usually, like I said, the first thing that will happen is your task brief. You have your task brief, then you have your team. Then within your team is when you are now making all this preparedness. You are making all these preparations and you're making all this plan. So you organize yourself. So another thing is the reconnaissance visit. For me, this is a very important aspect of your work. A reconnaissance visit, someone was saying something about, are we going to have the chance to test the questionnaire? During the last time we had session, someone was asking, are we going to have time to test the questionnaire? Are we going to do this or do that? So yes, you're going to have time to do that, and that is why when you come to your team, you're at your team level, you're analyzing the situation, you're analyzing your operations, how are you going to go? At that point is when you do all these like quality checks of your questionnaire to verify if everything is clear, if your answer is clear. And also this is part of the task brief. You're going to be informed about the task. You're going to be informed about your targeting criteria. You're going to be informed about your area of concentration. You're going to be informed about also the location where you're working and also the interest groups that you are supposed to be looking at. So the reconnaissance visit is a very important aspect. Is a step where you go and, for example, if you're working in one area, if that's the area you're living, you go and observe that area, look at that area. So, okay, what's going on here? Who and who is here? How is it going? So when you do that, that makes it possible that you can really appreciate or understand like how it's going there. So okay, all right. So I think there's some echo in the background. Yes. All right. If everything is clear, let me know, please, so that I'm aware.
Yeah, it's clear.
Okay, good. So, so this is your reconnaissance visit. That's how your reconnaissance visit happens, and you are able to make one or two changes or to your plans. So you can make. Are you hearing a background voice? I want to know.
I can.
There's no noise there.
All right,
There's
great.
no noise here.
Okay, great. All right, so that's fine. So you have to make your reconnaissance visit to be sure that you understand like what is happening and how it is happening. So when you make a reconnaissance visit, so you're able to know what needs to happen. The next thing is you map your area. Now, where are you working? You are working in, for example, in Ojo local government, or you are working in Kaduna local government. So if you're working in Ojo local government, you are working in Kaduna government. The next thing is that which areas are you working in? So in those areas where you are working, um, you start map where you are working. Like, okay, I'm working in this area. This is how it's going to be. This is how it's going to happen. Together with your team. This is where you decide, oh, you'll be working on this street, you'll be working here, you'll be working here, you'll be working there. So you have to do this mapping of your work. Then in this mapping of your work, you also decide within your team if the task you're given is for a time of, let me say, like 8 hours of work per day. You map within your team how you're going to progress or how you're going to move. Okay, you're starting work at 9, you're ending at so time, you're having your break at this time to go and eat. And in mapping of your work, this is where you decide, okay, Bola and okay, two of you are working here. Sani and Jumoke, you are working here. This is how you map. So you map your work, you map your area, and that area of work you cover it. So, and you have like during when you're mapping your work, this is where you decide your meeting points. Where are we meeting? At what point are we saying hi? At what point are we having breaks? This is when you are mapping this your work, is also part of your security. This is also part of your security planning when you do this mapping of your work. So it's really important that you put that into consideration. So working in teams. So you work in teams, like I mentioned, and while you're working in teams, you have your logistics. So your logistics is your transportation. So you can either transport yourself or you're transporting collectively. So when you're transporting yourself, it's when by yourself, it's all inclusive in the rates, or it could also be separate. So when we mean all inclusive is that if you see the rates of the work or the job that you're going to be on for, it's going to show that, okay, transport is included in it. But if it is separate, it will also be included in it. And the reason for this is very clear. The reason is because depending on the nature of the work and maybe the area or the support that we are getting, or also how the client wants the job done, that determines like what the shape of the logistics will be like. So for example, if you're getting like your per hour or your per day pay is so XYZ, and then you can get like a transport support of maybe 5,000 or 10,000 maybe per day or per week to cover your entire movement for that place, maybe where you're going to do your work. Another instance is also on some special occasions, like I said, it could be like a collective one. Let us say, due to the nature of the work, so it's collective in the sense that we can provide some form of bus or some form of organization or logistics. It may not be a bus, it may be just to organize it and make it smooth. And in some instance, like I said, maybe if it's a walking distance from your location, and because of the nature of the work, you don't need to enter transport. So like that's why I said it could be all inclusive. So when it's all inclusive, you see it clearly to be stated there if transport is inclusive or is not inclusive. If it's not inclusive, how much transportation are you going to be paid for? Or if there's a collective transportation system that is provided. But this depends squarely and neatly on the structure or the nature of the work that we are doing for the client. Now, the next thing is the complaint and feedback mechanisms. So you need to also know how people can reach us. And this will be part of your work package that we're going to be giving to you. So usually when we give you a task, when we have enlisted you into a task, we'll give you a work package. That work package is part of what you come in with. So that way, in that work package, you will see the complaint and feedback mechanism for a particular area. How you're going to, because people will ask you, oh, how do I reach your organization? Kasa, kasa, kasa. You tell them, okay, you can reach our organization through this way, you can communicate with us through this way, you can do this through this way. And also if you want feedback on maybe some of the information you provided, or you want to know, oh, I'm interested in the work you people are doing, I want to see the results at the end of the day. Okay, this is how you can see the results. Follow us on this social media, follow us here. We're going to. So for each of those assignments or tasks that I've given, these details will be provided to you. So in your work package, you have it. Now, templates for reporting. Yes, we're going to provide you digital or paper forms. Digital or paper forms includes, like, for example, informed consent forms, daily reports of activities, and security assessment reports. So we're going to provide you that. For example, you want the form on informed consent, you'll be there. So it could be digital, it could be paper forms, but depending, of course. So if it is a paper form, you would usually get it on the day of your assignment. So once you have, so the team leader, that's one of the things the team leader will come with. So okay, look at the paper forms, usually at your assembly point. So because of course during the times you're discussing with your team, you will have to decide, okay, look at our assembly points or whatever. So you decide that. However, in a situation where you are probably, so usually our work will be in teams. So it's very hardly that we ask you to go and work alone. It's very hardly. I don't think there's any situation would be like that ask you to, because it's also part of our security assessment measures for us. So be sure that you work as a group. I'm sure you all are some people are quite experienced in this, so they are used to it. So the next thing is safety. So first of all, and I will say this clearly, you are your own best security, or army, or navy, or mopo, or police. You yourself are your own best security. No one can better be no one can protect you more than you protect yourself. At least this is what we know, except if there's a situation, maybe somebody is not feeling well or mentally okay, that you need to protect them from themselves. But if it's like a normal person, nobody can protect you more than you protect yourself. I don't want to dabble into this, because some people will say, oh, some people cannot protect. Yeah, because you are your own best security network. You are your own best NATO, or you are your own best security military, or you are your own best. So please take necessary precautions individually for yourself. So another thing is the field staff security management protocols. So we would be having that when you go to the field, there will be some security management, like head counts that you are counting. Okay, these are the number of people we're working with, and at some particular time, maybe you're having your break. You have decided that, okay, this is our break time, and this is our break meeting point. And when is that break meeting point? There's some head count that is done to be sure that everyone is together, and just our protocols. Then another thing is security emergency protocol. So what I mean by security emergency, because maybe there's a situation and you need to exit the area. So there is a protocol that needs to be followed, a security management protocol. So this will be shared as like in your emails for you to read. They're not things that we would share online or like on the global scene. So these are things we will share with you in your emails for you to read, and you have an idea of our security emergency protocol. So in the case of an emergency, you look at our protocols and look at how you are supposed to do about it. The same thing applies for health emergency and protocol. So health emergency and protocol usually say it begins with you again. You are your best doctor. You as an individual, you're your own best doctor. No one is more concerned about your health than you. So you are the first doctor of yourself. So it starts with you. Then we'll tell you emergency protocol. So some of this emergency protocol is because of things like, maybe in the case of maybe someone, sometimes somebody can go to the field and you just have a headache, or you need paracetamol. So for us, what we only have is first aid, and this usually comes with the team leader. So what we only have is first aid. We are not doctors. And you all know that maybe in Nigeria, we don't have ambulances. We don't have 911, just to make that clear to everyone. So we don't have 911, we don't have ambulance. So we only have our first aid. And but usually we would inform you that, oh, hope you are okay, hope you are fine, like before you deploy for any task. So please take your health seriously. As an individual, please take your health seriously. Be fit always. So our health emergency protocol can only do little. So just so that you know. So before you think that we are going to call helicopter to come and airlift you. So no, that's not the situation. Just to point that out. So that's not the situation. Um, okay, so thank you for this. I hope that this is it was very useful to you. I hope I was able to rush through this in the short period of time. So if you have any questions, please let me know. And this is how we continue the conversation.